and welcome to the show. I am here on BeamNG Drive, taking 3 more vehicles around the Endurodrome to see how long they will survive. Today's episode is an interesting suggestion. I think Orange Dingus in the last episode commented an idea that I'm very curious to see how it's going to pan out. So I'm going to be using the classic pessima. I'm going to be using 3 different specs of the same car. We have got a kind of mid-tier road-going version. It hasn't got sport suspension, but it's got an okay-size engine, so there's a little bit of speed about the car. So normal road car. We are then going to use the track spec car and then the rally car. See how long each respective vehicle will last. Theoretically, the rally car should survive the bumps and the strenuous demands of this circuit the best. The track car, theoretically, the worst, and the road car somewhere in the middle. However, I'm not actually sure, because the rally car will be going pretty fast, which means it's actually going to be hitting, well, jumps, bumps and everything at a decent pace. So even with its tougher suspension, maybe that will get into trouble just from sheer, bigger crashes. I don't know. Also, this normal version of the car is front-wheel drive. Both the track and rally version are all-wheel drive, which is inherently perhaps a little bit of an advantage to them. Oh, we're going to clonk our way across there. However, they are all, both the track, I believe both the track and the rally version are turbocharged. Sometimes sort of high turbos engines can get overheated very, very easily if the radiator goes. It's a curious idea, very curious idea, and we will know fairly shortly as to how it's all going to pan out. The normal road car, so far, looking pretty good. So far, no real issues. I think we probably pinged the front bumper around a little bit over the speed bumps, as is usual. Into the big old pit of mud we go. It's not very fun through there, but the car will get through with no issues. Now, across the rocks we go. It's never a massively fun time for anything across there. We do get it neat enough. It's being thrown around a bit. It's got enough speed that the likes of this jump over here, we're able to get mostly a good landing. It's still a little bit shaken around. It's still a little bit bounced around as we head across one of the concrete areas. And this next straight is deceptively dangerous for cars. It looks straightforward, however, there are a lot of little bumps. You get a lot of airtime, but it can very easily roll the car or just break suspension down there. The whole point of the Endurodrome is it rattles cars apart. It breaks suspension, wheel axle, drive lines, and so on, often before the car has a chance to overheat. It is that sort of vicious, but it's not just from big crashes on landings of the jumps. We are quick enough over that tabletop. That's actually it's been a pretty, unless something goes terribly wrong through this final sector, which it has gone terribly wrong. I was about to say it has been a pretty damn good first lap for minimal amount of damage. However, that is a front wheel axle gone. That's going to lose all drive. We are stuck rolling. In fact, I think we're going to end up getting stuck on the ramp because it's not going to have the speeds to clear that. We are going to come to a halt on the ramp, and there we go. Well, it was very much curse of the commentator in that one. It was looking good, though. It got around that first lap really, really well. We came across the speed bump. We hit it, I guess, quite hard. It was enough to snap. It's not even the... just looking at the car park, I guess where the wheels sort of part on the ramp. Yeah, it is that front rear axle must have just dug in enough, and once that's gone, yeah, your front wheel drive car, that will have no drive left. So, the next spec of pessima to run around here is the track car. It is lower, stiffer suspension than the road-going version. A considerably faster car, and I believe it is also all-wheel drive. Suspension is not ideal. With the stiffness suspension, it's likely to bounce the car and roll it a lot. However, there is a potential plus point in all of this. Race suspension does tend to be quite strong, so we might see the wheel axles take a bit more of a battering before they give up. The concern is potentially, the car bouncing and rolling and snapping something while it is rolling. We've seen the likes of the Sunburst. I think it was a Sunburst of a sports version. It wasn't even a track car, the Sunburst that went around here, but the sports version of the Sunburst got bounced around so much around this sort of track. because the suspension is far too stiff to deal with these sort of bumps. The wing had some interesting flex going on. Can we keep the mighty wing attached to the back of the pessima? I'm not sure. I had a horrible thought for a second there that one of the front wheels was bending outwards. It wasn't. It's all good. It's a blooming quick car, is this? We're gonna have to, well, we've slightly bailed out of the, unintentionally bailed out of the mud through all of that. There's a lot more speed there than I realised. This is not a slow car. This is not a slow car whatsoever. We've got to try and get through the rock pit. It's a nasty one. I think the line I'm taking there, it looks like it's a scary line, but I think you get airborne just before you hit any of the rocks. It's one of the few ways to get across there without actually rolling. We're tearing off the front bumper as we go across these rocks. Not too bad. Well, I say not too bad. The front bumper does help protect the radiator for a little while. It's always going to take a battering around here. It's always likely to fall off pretty quickly. And now you see the difference between the whoa, dear, the race car and the normal road car. We have actually snapped the front left. Oh, I've got no steering. Well, you can see if I don't touch the steering, we have got big problems. So it's not completely disconnected, that wheel, which is good in some ways, although we are now going to really, really struggle. It's not entirely disconnected, and it's not like it's fighting. Oh, it is now entirely disconnected. We are down to one wheel steering. It's not great news for the track car. I actually really thought it was going to be the right-hand side that caught it, considering where we flew over some of those jumps. Are we going to be going quick enough? So the track car is in trouble around here. The track car is in a awful lot of trouble, but it might. I mean, it's got to try and survive the oh, we have still got some sort of steering. It's got to try and survive while the speed bumps that are coming up. Oh, we've got to have enough steering to be able to keep the car going. It does not look like that is going to be the case. The vehicle looks like it just wants to steer itself. I think that might be a steering failure on this. We have still got one working wheel. The issue we've got, I'm allowed to reverse the car from a crash, but that was just a steering. It's dragged itself off. The wheel under its own power, because yeah, it's lost all of the steering, so the tie rod's gone entirely there rather than just being twisted, but it's still got drive, so that is, yeah, you can just see what it's doing. That is a car that is dead on steering. It's an unfortunate one for the track car, but is a very, very, very poorly vehicle now. Apparently this is not as strong a car as I thought it was going to be. I did expect them to last a little bit longer. In the track car we always thought might struggle, but that's a not great showing so far. Well, it's not too much of a tall order. For the final spec of Pessima, it's just got to make it onto a second lap and it's going to win this little showdown. I mean, the rally car should surely make it onto a second lap. I would be massively concerned if it didn't. But I don't know. The wheel axles have proven to be not the strongest when it comes to surviving around here. However, this version should have much tougher suspension. It should have suspension good enough to survive, or certainly speed bumps. Sure, the jumps are big. The jumps are probably meaner than you would find on a rally stage. Certainly, majority of rally stages anyway. We've surely got to be able to make it onto lap 2 with a rally car here. I know it's a mean circuit, this one, and even off-road vehicles can have trouble. They can have lots of trouble, actually, around here. The downside with rally cars and off-road vehicles in general is the higher, softer suspension. While, yeah, good at smoothing out bumps, you know, these bumps as we come into the mud pit, most of the time, they can have issues with bouncing. Certainly the big lifted trucks will tend to have issues with bouncing, and then they'll roll over quite a lot. Rollovers aren't always... Sometimes rolling is better than a heavy stationary landing. That's not great news for the Pessima. We've had our first roll today. Yeah, rollovers, at least they are mitigating damage. As the car tumbles, as the car rolls, it's dissipating the energy that isn't going through, you know, whoop, through the drive line. Okay, whoops, we might have driven that one over a rock. That was not the great. I was busy spinning the camera around, didn't realise there were rocks out there. Not done any additional damage to the car, so that's fine. The engine a little bit damaged in the brief oil starvation from the roll. mean, that's one of the penalties that cars have to pay if they get rolled over. Is that... I had a horrible... Again, I'm just looking at the wheel. I'm very worried about the car's wheels, basically. I thought I saw a bit of a twisted, weird camber going on from the rear wheel. It does not look like that is the case. We've got nice amount of speed over the tabletop, although it's immediate. Yeah, it's hit that landing and there's been a twist. That's the sort of bouncing that I was afraid of we might get. Sure enough, once it starts rolling, it just wants to keep going. Now that has bent in the rear wheel, has taken the radiator out. So overheating is going to be a real danger. There was a clonk as we went over that speed bump that I was a bit concerned about. At least we've still got a full complement of wheels that do steering and the like. You know, that's quite nice. Hell, if this car goes out from overheating, it'll be a marked improvement. It is going to do the best of all three. It'll be a marked improvement than the other versions of the vehicle. Here we go. It's completed a lap. It has made it around a lap of this circuit, although it's hardly the most convincing first lap we have ever seen from a car. I mean, if we can make it... Hell, if we can complete lap number 2, if we can make it onto a third lap, we're probably doing pretty well. I think the overheating will kill it. The steering, or the just lack of control now with that incredible amount of positive camber we've got going on doesn't help matters for avoiding concrete barriers. Not much I can do about that. It's not much I can do when you've got the wonky wheel from a landing. We shouldn't have too many, those speed bumps. We should have more than enough suspension travel. I'd be very surprised, at least, if this went out over those sort of speed bumps, like we saw with the first version of the car. The big jumps are perhaps the bigger concern, or a rock tearing something off the underside of the car. There we go. We're across that nasty jump once more. Front bumpers somehow clinging on for dear life. Didn't really protect. To say they have a tough time. Oh, that's a clog. Oh, front bumpers come off. Never mind then. Ignore me. Wasn't able to do much in terms of protecting the radiator, but it was a big shunt, a big crash that led to the radiator failure. What are we going to be like down the bumpy straight? The temperature is starting to soar on the pessima. How much longer can the engine... Okay, it's not too bad. It's gone back down because I lifted for a little while. Yeah, of course it is going to overheat, but it's how long can we keep the car going? Are we going to be fast enough? Yes, we are going to be fast enough up here. Now, oh, that's a nice landing. That's a good landing from the pessima, although we're bouncing and wobbling across some more potholes. Oh, we've lost a front left axle. We should still be drivable in this. We should still have some drive. We will be potentially three-wheel drive. Do we still have steering? Yes, we do. Okay, with three-wheel drive, well, I mean, the left-hand side's had a bad day because we've got a lot of positive camber. That is going to make life a bit awkward for this car. That's a lot of camber going on back there. That might be the most positive camber I've seen outside of the Bugatti Type 32, 34, whatever the Bugatti is, the classic Bugatti on Forza. With that, it's got many positive degrees of camber. This. It's amazingly even as well. I'll give it credit for that. That is amazingly even amounts of positive camber and tow you've got going on right there. So it's three-wheel drive, but only one of the wheels is really touching the road properly. Oh, we're going to spin as well. That's not what we wanted to do at all. I wonder... can we try... I mean, this is not a case of the car not having the steering to make it through the course, like it was with the track car version. We are allowed to kind of reverse out if we've spun from that sort of thing. Are we going to have... there was a concern, of course, we'll take out... I mean, if we take out the other front axle, we'll still be able to drive technically. I think it would still be rear-wheel drive. However, there's a big puff of smoke, I presume, from the engine. I think the engine might be about to expire anyway. This is... Considering how much damage there is on the back of this car, it is limping around pretty well. There is absolutely no rear-end grip at this point in time. There's none. There's nothing. It may as well be... It may as well have, like, shopping trolley wheels on the back for all the good that these ones are doing, and you're trying to put power down through them. It's not... Yeah, not great. Are we going to actually be able to get through the mud? We might... blow the engine to bits trying to do this, because I've got to try and keep some power down. That's, I think... Oh, no, I thought the engine was dying. It's still got some go about it. Here we go, across the rocks. We're going to go across them sideways. Don't have any other choice. That's just where the car is going. We actually pushed the front... Oh, that's... Come on. I know the engine's poorly. We've pretty much pushed... In fact, we pushed both of the front wheels back almost into... I mean, it'd be quite uncomfortable in the passenger footwell with where that front right wheel is. Oh, we're fine. I was a little bit worried for landing on those rocks. We've seen what damage they can do. This feels like a... Oh, no, he was out of boost. I thought that felt like a dying engine. Because we're kind of now going slow enough, maybe we have just slowed down the engine tearing itself apart. For what I'm amazed it's still... There we go, rod bearers are damaged. It's been at max temperature for a while now, and that's got to be taking its toll on that engine. I'm amazed it is still going. Oh, that's it. As I say, we're starting to lose power. Going down the hill, that is engine locked up, that is the car. The car did a much more respectable showing from the rally spec pessima. Some fascinatingly bizarre rear camber made for a very difficult final lap. The engine held up well, though, despite the overheating. You can see how far the front wheels have been pushed back into the body. Essentially, that is you can see where they were once and where they've ended up. That's an interesting thing. It drove with 3-wheel drive for a lot of it. Apparently, the wheel axles on the pessima not amazingly strong when it comes to the Endurodrome. All of the cars suffering failures of them, but the rally car could keep going a decent distance. On to the leaderboard, and the pessima rally car will go furthest of the day. It'll go into a 7th place on lap number 3. It breaks down at pretty much the same point as the Delta 88. The Delta rolling a slight bit further down the bumpy straight. Of course, a rally car is going to be fairly well suited to this sort of a course. The pessima, though, the classic pessima in general, does not seem to be a massively strong car when it comes to this Endurodrome. Even the rally car, you know, being killed quicker than a sports sunburst, a Satsuma, hell, the ambulance. So yeah, it's not a massively strong car overall. I mean, in terms of the sort of investigation, there wasn't a particularly surprise result in all of this. You know, you had the expectation the rally car would go furthest, but you never know. You kind of half hope for a surprise. I guess perhaps the biggest surprise is that pessima really did not like this course. It really did not like this course. In the end, the track car went out with busted steering, the suspension taking an absolute battering. The road car did survive lap 1 very well up until a speed bump. It hit a speed bump and that took out the wheel axle. Once the wheel axle's gone, there is no drive to that. It rolled down the road. They are right down at the very bottom of the table. Only the bus made it a shorter distance than the track car. Admittedly, the Coronet Super B also went out on essentially the same jump, but that did roll a bit further. That's not the greatest of showings from that classic pessima, but it was quite interesting. You could see the visible differences the way the cars dealt with the bumps between the road car and the track car, for example, down some of the rougher sections, etc. I imagine the track car would have hated those speed bumps if it had hit them on a second lap around. We could well have seen wheel axle goes on that if it survived long enough. That, though, is going to be it for this video. As ever, I shall link all the mods used in the description so you can download them, have a go with them yourself. And that's going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.